Definitely. Let's do Manchester City. The 115 charges case has finally started. I feel like we've been waiting for this day for very long. How often will we actually hear news about what's going on? What kind of news might we hear? Are we going to be in the dark completely until there's a decision? What does this look like from a fan perspective?
Oh, it's so frustrating because yes, the secret location was leaked yesterday, and there was photographs of the barristers all going in. Uh, One reputedly, the Man City lead lawyer David Panic is on £5,000 an hour, which is a decent fee, I suppose, and he was the first one in, so that his hours start clocking up earliest. But look, we're not going to be hearing much. They're going to be very clear about that. They said that the chairman of the commission will only disclose things that he decides he wants to disclose, and there'll be no further reporting. Now, of course, being football, we're all going to be looking for leaks, and if there aren't leaks, then people will make up leaks. So we'll have to be very careful about the information that we get out of it and treat it accordingly. There's been a very big debate today about should these be public and should be more transparency. Because if in one case, I do believe that it could be and should be transparent because that would actually add to the penalty. If a club realised it was going to be dragged through the mud publicly in such a way, in such a hearing, that might be another option about trying to stop the behaviour that we are trying to
Yeah.
fight against, so to speak. So that's an interesting point to it. Also, I think, look, it'll bore people for the majority of the time for the next 2 months or whatever it's going to take. The detail and minutiae will be incredible and very boring, but there will be bombshell moments. But if you can stay awake to capture those bombshell moments, that'll be the case. I've been around these sort of proceedings many times, and it really is a very boring day. And as I say, it's not great TV watching if that's what people are looking for. However, I do believe fundamentally that if we're going to enforce rules, justice needs to be seen to be done and not just done. So I think there is some value in having some key reporters there to analyse the day's proceedings and give us an update on each day. And I think that might be helpful and important.
No doubt about that. And Premier League clubs are quite frustrated by this lack of transparency, especially considering they're actually paying for part of the Premier League's legal fees. Do they have a right to be upset about this? Should they be getting some news even if the rest of us aren't?
That's a tricky one. Look, I can understand everybody being upset. I mean, when you're paying the bill, you feel that you want to have a right to see what's going on. And this is going to be probably deducted from the overall broadcasting share. So the clubs are all going to be paying for it, as you say. I mean, if the bill's 20 million or whatever, that's £1 million less for each club. But again, due to legal proceedings being as they are, I think it's got to be. At the moment, they've decided it's going to be held in secret. So that's the way it's going to be done. But yes, if you're paying the bill, you've got every right to be upset because you don't know if your money's being well spent, and that's the whole thing. You don't know if the Premier League have hired the wrong lawyers, of spending too much on lawyers. In the recent Everton case, they got their knuckles rapped because they were spending 5 times more on expert witnesses than Everton were. And so there can be a case, and it's always often in life that if you're spending someone else's money, you aren't quite so careful in how you spend it. And I think the Premier League, having a blank cheque, may just go ahead and spend it without really any accountability. So, yes, there is a reason to be angry and to question it, but the reality is they're not going to have any say right now.
And as a former CEO of a club, if you're sitting there waiting for this ruling, what are you hoping for? Are you hoping for Manchester City to be relegated? Are you hoping for them to just be fined? Like, where do you draw the line as another club?
It's a really difficult position to be in because you know that this is damaging the Premier League overall and the competition that you're a shareholder in. So you do want to see justice done in some way, but you also know the circus that this has become is also going to damage the whole everybody that's in the Premier League as well. So what you're hoping for, I think, is a speedy resolution. This may not be the case as usual, unfortunately. So you're hoping for a speedy resolution. I don't think you really care about the outcome as long as it's seen to be done and there's genuine reasons for legal decisions. If it's a technicality like Leicester got off on recently, you'd be very, very angry with the Premier League. So we've got to see if there has been a major slip up from the Premier League in the way they presented the case. If that is the case, then I think there's no doubt that heads have got to roll because it's becoming just too big a problem. So I'm sitting there watching, and I'd like to be sure that it's fair, it's decent, that the Premier League actually have got a case, and there's no fundamental loopholes that City have managed to get through. If City have cheated, then I do want them to be penalised. So as a CEO, I'd be keen to see a serious sanction. And I said, once and for all, let's have a summit and get these rules sorted out going forward so we don't end up in these embarrassing situations again.
No doubt about that. And Manchester City only spent £30 million on summer transfers. Any reason for lower spending? Could it be those massive legal fees?
No, I don't think it's anything to do with that. I don't think money's really the issue. That's what the whole case is about. They've got too much of it. No, they've been very, very good and very prudent. Pep knows what he's doing with his squad development. They've already got an embarrassment of riches. So I think it was more tinkering with the squad and keeping it freshening up. There was no need to go mad for Man City and spending more.
For sure. And this summer, or this winter potentially, but more likely this coming summer, they're linked with moves for both Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala. Do you think they'll have the PSR capacity to pull off both deals after such a small spending this summer?
Yeah, I think they will. I think that it's a very clever plan. I think those two would fit into City's profile really well. I think it would be a great move for them, and I think it would help, depending on the outcome of the court case, it would help their dominance carrying on in the Premier League. I think those two would fit with Pep very, very well.